Welcome to the show. This is a sad day for all of us here in the state of Texas and for all of us here at Give Me a Break. Just hours ago, there was a shooting here in the state of Texas. Here in the state in Uvalde, Texas. After that, here's what we know so far. So far, 19 children and 3 adults killed in this mass shooting. But there is but this is still a very sad day for everyone here in Texas, including myself as a Texan. And because with everything going on in the city, we're going to dedicate this half hour to the shooting by giving you guys more details into this shooting as it goes. So to begin, let's bring you guys up to speed. Let's bring you all up to speed on this. According to USA Today, 19 children killed in Texas with a teacher. He was wearing body armor, 500 surrounds, 18-year-old gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers. Texas Department of Public Safety said a U.S. Border Protection agent said one of the civil responded to the scene, shot and killed the gunman. A senior Department of Homeland Security told USA Today on Tuesday night. But the sergeant of Texas Department of Public Safety said the gunman also shot his grandmother before driving to Robb Elementary School in Texas, where he was armed with a rifle and overpowered a school officer. But Greg Abbott said earlier Tuesday that the woman died. But federal law enforcement told the Associated Press the death toll was expected to rise. They spoke on condition not only because they were not authorized to release the details. But Abbott said 2 responding officers were struck by gunfire but were seriously injured. But Uvalde is a city of about 16,000 people, 85 miles west of San Antonio. It came 4 years after a gunman fatally shot 10 people in Santa Fe High in the Houston area. But the president Tuesday night called a news conference to decried another massacre that left pain and students unforgettable pain to lose a child as having peace to be so whipped away. Biden also called for a new push to gun control measures, laminating the lack of progress despite the shootings. But parents were involved. Families are being notified, and multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, were on the scene that afternoon. And earlier, the district said that the schools and district were locked down because of gun zones in the area. Robb Elementary School had enrollment just about 600 students, and there were 419 shootings on school grounds last year, more than any other since 1970. And so far, 137 this year, said David Ryman, who was a lead researcher on the K-12 shooting database for the School Center of Homeland Defense and Security. But the vice president said that American leaders need to take action to ensure another incident like this doesn't happen again. But the First Lady said on Twitter, Lord enough, little children and their teacher, stunned, angry, and heartbroken. The San Antonio mayor asked residents on Twitter to join the city in flying flags at half-staff to remember lives lost. Pray for the lost, their families, in Uvalde. And the New York Times. I mean, this was the deadliest shooting ever since 2012, almost 10 years ago in Newtown, Connecticut. But this is Texas. This is San Antonio. This is Horno. This is Uvalde. That's where the shooting took place. It's across the street from the school. Street shooters were scattered across the school lawn. An ambulance idled with its lights flashing. Uvalde Hernandez, a longtime resident, said his nephew had been in the classroom near where the shooting took place. But like I said before, the president was in a brief conference, reflected the attack, and called for action, meaning a lot of laws need to be passed. But the Second Amendment says that, but this is what I don't get. I mean, if you have new gun laws, that can take away rights. I mean, haven't you ever read the Constitution? But at least with 3 children, a 9-year-old and 2 10-year-olds, and 1 critical condition, were taken to University Health and Hospital in San Antonio for treatment. But shortly after the massacre, a 66-year-old woman was shot in her home. But even before, new details were emerging. There were more than 500 students, and mostly between ages 7 and 10. 90% of the students are Hispanic, according to district records. A sign hanging from the brick wall of the University of the City says "Welcome" and "Benevitos" next to the school's logo, a heart. When we come back, we're going to bring you more latest on this shooting, especially the suspect. They said it was 18, but do we know his name? We'll tell you when we come back. If you're just joining us, tonight is a full half hour of Give Me a Break about a school shooting happened near San Antonio in a school. Another school mass shooting ever since Oxford. Now, so far we can tell is 19 children and 3 adults were dead. So that makes it like 22 people killed in this shooting, especially the grandmother. But just an hour ago, they have released new details on the suspect. So take a look from Fox Live now.
School will be no more. Closed for the remainder of the year. Remember, there was only 2 more days left in the school year for these young elementary school students. Joining us now from the scene down in Uvalde, Texas, with the latest on this shooting investigation, Fox 26 Houston reporter Matthew Seedorf. Matthew, thanks for being with us. We know you just got there on the scene. What does it look like, and who have you spoken to since you got there?
Oh, Andrew, you can definitely get the sense of the community just within minutes. You can tell how heartbroken they are. You can still see law enforcement here tonight, just combing through everything and still investigating, making sure the school scene is still closed off. But just unspeakable evil. 19 kids killed, 2 adults, and it seems like that death toll just continues to grow by the hour. And many families tonight still holding out hope, waiting for answers, hoping their kids are okay. Students and teachers in Uvalde, Texas, reuniting with loved ones after one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history.
It's been hours of devastation, just waiting, and there's no answers.
Parents hoping and praying their missing children are alive. A gunman going classroom to classroom at Robb Elementary, shooting and killing at least 20 people, most of the victims young, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade kids.
The crime scene is still being worked on. And again, we'll notify the parents and the families as soon as we have some news for them.
Police now identifying the gunman as this 18-year-old Uvalde resident. Investigators believe he killed his grandmother late Tuesday morning before crashing a car outside the school. Then he somehow got inside the building with an evil mission wearing body armor.
It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle.
Authorities shooting and killing the lone gunman.
Investigation is not complete. This is a tragic time in our district, and we greatly appreciate your patience and understanding.
So right now, authorities are just trying to figure out what everyone is wondering. Why did this happen here today in Uvalde, Texas?
Matthew, I'm being joined by Daytona Everett in the newsroom. My question, though, set the scene for us at this hour. What are you looking at behind you? Are you near the reunification center? Can you kind of see some of these families who are still waiting for answers?
Yeah, so that center is only about a mile or so, maybe even less from where we are right now. We're actually at the elementary school. It's still roped off tonight. You can see law enforcement behind me, occasionally walking through the camera footage probably, just making sure that the scene is secure and just trying to find out any new details or any new clues as to what happened. Again, we're about a mile from the Unification Center, and there are still families there tonight waiting for answers as to what happened to their loved ones. Just devastating.
Yeah, Matthew, a lot of families with a lot of questions. We're seeing many of these photos being released of students that have not yet been reunified with their families here. We also have a lot of questions, as do a lot of media members. I would assume they're with being on the scene and with law enforcement authorities still being there. Have they given you any indication there's going to be another update, another press conference, or is it pretty tight-lipped?
Well, we're actually speaking with DPS troopers on the side, but we don't know exactly if we can expect any press conferences tonight. I'm sure we'll hear new updates tomorrow, but right now we're just trying to figure out why this shooter tried to act so evilly here today.
Fox 26 reporter in from Houston, now in Uvalde, Matthew Seedorf. Thanks so much for that update. We'll be speaking again, I'm sure, in the next couple of days. Thanks so much.
So now we know what happened, but the 18-year-old has not been identified. Now this is the deadliest one ever since Newtown, Connecticut, almost 10 years ago. Now just months ago, we had another school. There was another one in Oxford, Michigan, just like this one. Just before this one, Ethan Kremlin was charged as an adult, but that was days. And as he said, there's public press conferences happening. But that's probably not going to say much, depending on who, if they're going to release the name. But if the name is released, it could go back to what happened. So what we know so far is that the shooter was an 18-year-old. But he was not identified. If he was identified, like I said before, it would go back. It would go back to what we've been talking about. Like, media will not even say his name and all. But let me tell you something. When I was in school, we didn't have there was no shootings. There was no threats. If someone threatened my school, we would be on lockout or lockdown. And like I showed you before in our safety breaks, we focused in on the lockdown drills. What you need to do, you need to stay there, stay quiet, call 911, let them know oh, everything's all clear. But a lot of districts have responded to this, and when we return, we're going to hear from Flower Bluff, CCISD, and Toulouse Midway and see what they have to say about this. We're also going to hear from Missouri Governor. We're also going to hear from the Missouri Governor and the Illinois politicians. How did they react to the shooting? Stay with us. Before we continue with our special, let's bring you up to date on the Oxford school shooting. Victims and families of victims of the November Oxford shooting filed a lawsuit against the Oxford School District School Administrator, accusing them of violating legally mandated school safety policies and violating students' constitutional rights. They accused administrators of failing to notify law enforcement of the actions. It was also joined by the parents of Justin Shirley and Tay Murray, who were killed in the shooting. They alleged that a huge shooter, Ethan Crumley, had exhibited concerning behavior. But on November 11th, at least before the shooting, he brought a bird's head. But the lawyers are requesting damages into interest, costs, and attorney's fees, as well as punitive and/or exemplary damages. And what about the parents? Well, the parents of the Oxford school shooter claim they can't get a fair trial in Oakland County request moved. They claim they won't get a fair trial in Oakland County and they're requesting the trial to move somewhere else. They're both facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for alleged role in failing to prevent the shooting. Their son, Ethan Crumley, is the suspected shooter. But last month, they appeared in court when a judge denied a motion to reduce the bond from $500,000 to $100,000. They're still being held in light of $500,000. But the full motion, look at this. This is like, these are 5 pages. Of this. So therefore, this was now just released, and this could open up the clues about why would they do this. It's like, let me tell you right now, if I was accused of something like this happening, you know what I would have done? I would have fessed up right away. And if my mom was charged with involuntary manslaughter, you know what she would have done? She would have fessed up right away, and this would have been out of the public, would have been gone, and we're just, this case is just bouncing off the wall here. I've never seen so much anger from Oxford, Michigan parents. I'm looking at other parents out there that want to make sure their son is safe, and then they want to rip your freaking arms off. And just 2 hours ago, the board holds a moment of silence after Texas, and we still don't know what happens. Give Me a Break continues in just a moment with the Oxford Board of Education reacting to the moment of silence after the Texas school shooting. The sheriff and the governor reacts. We'll be right back. As you know, months after the Oxford shooting, as you know, if you just joined us, we are talking about that we're dedicating a half hour to a school shooting that happened just yesterday, which is today, which is a special Give Me a Break Tuesday, which is going to be uploaded on Wednesday. You probably get the picture here. So what we talked about was, here's the rundown so far. There was 22 people killed, 19 children and 2 adults killed. The suspect is an 18-year-old. We don't know his name, but there's going to be news conferences happening in a few days, and we'll bring you up to speed. Let's get to some reactions now. Let's start first with Oxford. The Oxford board holds a moment of silence after a Texas school shooting. The sheriff and the governor react. But the president started the meeting at 6:30. The first thing we want to do is have a moment of silent reflection and prayer to those who have experienced something too familiar to us down in Texas, so please. He said the board wanted to cancel the meeting so staff could get home to their families, but legal requirements forced the board to address the Freedom of Information Act and the station requested a closed session with the district attorney. The board removed other agenda items. And this is what Oxford says. But how do other states react? Let's go to Missouri.
First on Fox, a devastating day for the nation. 19 children and 2 teachers killed in Uvalde, Texas, when a gunman opens fire at an elementary school.
Fox News' Ty Hawkins is tracking developments in this heartbreaking tragedy, and he joins us now with the latest. Ty?
Mandy Shirley, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos of Uvalde is dead after killing 21 people today at Robb Elementary School. This was the deadliest mass shooting in Texas history.
So tonight, I ask the nation to pray for them and give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now.
President Biden addressed the nation after another mass shooting Tuesday afternoon in Texas. 18-year-old Salvador Ramos of Uvalde opened fire at Robb Elementary before he was killed.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and
we will need your prayers to get us through
Don't mind
this.
the rain.
The small town of 16,000 is about 85 miles west of San Antonio. One father says he was notified about the shooting, and now he can't find his 10-year-old daughter, Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez.
I got info that my daughter was at school where they were shooting, and I was waiting for more details, and nobody never called me back on detail. And now I've come back in town looking for my daughter, and I can't find her now.
The Texas Department of Public Safety says Ramos entered the school wearing body armor with a rifle and fired shots indiscriminately. 2 police officers were shot and are expected to survive. Ramos also shot his grandmother before he went to the school. It's unclear if she is dead or alive. Missouri Governor Mike Parson says something needs to be done.
Our heart goes out to all the families involved, all the victims who were in that, and needless killings, to say the least. And it doesn't matter whether it's in Texas or any state or any surrounding. When innocent children lose their lives, we've got to do a better job protecting them.
This is the 3rd mass shooting this month. 10 people were killed at a grocery store in Buffalo on May 14th, followed by 1 person killed and 5 others injured at a Taiwanese church in California on May 15th. Shirley?
Thanks, Ty. Well, Fox 2 will continue to cover developments in this tragedy and bring you the latest information on air and on our website, fox2now.com.
Now, do other states react to this? Let's go to Illinois.
It read.
Authorities saying the death toll is expected to rise after a teen gunman shot and killed 19 elementary school students and 2 adults this afternoon in Uvalde, Texas.
Illinois lawmakers are reacting to the news.
Natalie is back with their call to action. Natalie.
Democratic lawmakers are calling for immediate action and gun control measures. Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying, and I quote here, "We must push our legislators to pass sweeping and effective gun control measures. Our children's lives depend on it." Senator Dick Durbin saying, "I implore, beg my Republican colleagues to prevent Americans from reliving this gun tragedy far too often." Republican Texas Senator Ted Cruz called the shooting an unspeakable crime, saying the nation needs to go after criminals who illegally buy firearms. He also advocated for more armed security on school campuses. Vice President Kamala Harris is demanding action from the nation's leaders.
Our hearts keep getting broken. Enough is enough. As a nation, we have to have the courage to take action.
We still don't know a motive for the shooting or how the gunman obtained firearms. The annual National Rifle Association convention is taking place in Houston on Friday. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and former President Donald Trump are scheduled to speak. Dawn and Corey.
So Donald Trump is ordered to speak, even though he is impeached. He can't be the president. But how do other schools here in Texas react to the shooting? Well, they post their concerns on Facebook. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at their posts. From the Alice Chief of Police, their statement reads in part that together we will provide additional security for our schools for the remainder of the school year. Uniformed officers will be present in every school to include St. Elizabeth Catholic School. This was from Edan N. Garcia, the Chief of Police of Alice. Tulsa ISD said, out of abundance of caution, Tulsa ISD will be on lockout at all campuses until May 27th. No lunch deliveries or deliveries of any kind will be allowed. Period. And Flower Bluff, here in Flower Bluff. Our hearts are heavy this evening as we hear about the tragic events at Uvalde CISD. We mourn with our fellow educators in the community. We have secured additional police officers for tomorrow's activities and mission. If you know or recognize your child joining assistance from our counselors and our social worker, please don't hesitate to contact your campus principal. Our continued prayers are with the Robb Elementary School and the community of Uvalde, which is good. I'm glad that one person is stepping up to the plate and just saying we don't need people having their stuff delivered, this and that and the other. File Up's not doing enough. You guys need to be doing a lockout, meaning no one gets in, no one comes in. Period. Like me, if I were to come in and saw something like this happening, I would personally want to say, what a waste. It's like, okay, what if it happens again here at 5 Block? What if it happens again at Alice? What if it happens again in CCISD and the new Carroll building? We will bring you, Brian Burns is going to take you to the new Carroll ISD building where new security will be in place when we come back. Welcome back to this special edition of Give Me a Break, the Massacre in Texas history, where if you just joined us, we're focusing on Uvalde, Texas, to where Hobbs Elementary was under attack in a school shooting by an 18-year-old. And what we learned so far is that 22 people have been killed in this shooting, elementary students and the adults here. The grandmother was shot by that 18-year-old. But we still don't know where he got the gun. We don't know how other people will react. We know that Governor Greg Abbott and Donald Trump are going to be there in Houston at a conference on Friday. So we'll bring you up to speed as it goes along. I want to turn now to CCISD and how they reacted to this. Now, CCISD New Carroll is going to be having a lot of new security in its New Carroll building. But will it be enough to prevent stuff like this happening again? Here's Brian Burns.
Leslie, Rudy, CCISD has been taking a proactive stance since the days of the Sandy Hook and Columbine school shootings more than 10 years ago. As a result, all the schools, both old and new, have had upgrades to keep violence from entering school campuses. Chief Kirby Warnicki took us through a part of the new Carroll High School currently under construction on Castores and Saratoga. He showed us how they're building a main entrance that will have hurricane-proof glass and locked doors that will prevent any unauthorized entry to the main building where students' classes are being conducted.
We've been putting these in since before 2014. Our bond 2018 allowed us to retrofit every one of our campuses to put vestibules. So all of our campuses have vestibules. Our new construction all have vestibules, and they basically add an extra layer of protection to ensure that danger on the outside doesn't spill in to our campuses.
Warnicki says you can see examples of the retrofitting at both Ray and King high schools, the old high schools getting the new vestibules. Warnicki says an aggressor can easily be trapped in these new vestibules, allowing police enough time to reach the campus before anyone can escape. Leslie, Rudy?
All right, Brian, thank you.
So that's some great news for CCISD. I'm glad they're stepping up to the plate for what they're doing. And if you were to go to Ray and King, who are doing those similar things, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, what about this thing about arming teachers? As we told you before, one solution could have been done by arming teachers. And one school in Texas thought about that idea, and perfect. If those teachers had brought a gun, held that person at gunpoint, he would have been arrested, sent to jail, and that teacher would have been a hero. Those teachers would have been a hero. But they have to go through training. They have to go through a lot of things. They're trained with the officers. You want to go in with a pencil or a pistol. And people, you're asking somebody to walk in with a gun. Army teachers. This whole thing was brought up years ago by President Trump. And during that time, he was mocked for it. I kind of think it was a great idea. If those teachers at Hobbs Elementary had brought their guns, they would have defended themselves, and that shooter could have been arrested and sent to jail. And laws need to be changed. If the laws here are changed here in the state, a lot of people would be up in arms, angry, saying, "How dare you take away my gun rights, this and that and the other." We're trying to make everything safe. I mean, schools are doing their best to increase security, have more police. If we gotta have metal detectors, if we're gonna have metal detectors, then okay. That was a weird blackout, sorry about that. But, like I said before, safety is the number one priority in all of our schools. And if nothing happens, we will end up going back to square one, and we can't be having that on our consciences. What do I mean by square one? Going to everything. What we need to do as parents to make sure that we tell our kids that stuff like this happens. And the truth of the matter is, 66% of people tell 2 more people when they're going to do it and where they're going to do it in these mass shootings. 80% of them tell at least one person. Now let's take a look at this. What about Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold? They told each other. There was just one person. That would fit in the 80% mark. What about the other shooters? They would probably fit in that 60-some to 80-some% mark. How about the latest one? How about Ethan? In the journal, he didn't tell anyone, so he doesn't fit in that mark. And what about this one? He didn't fit in this mark. He didn't fit in that mark too. So that would mean he was an active shooter alone. And as a final thought, let's make schools a safer place for learning, making friends, and to make sure nothing like this happens again. We need police, we need security, we need a lot of things. And if we don't have those things, it's going to end up going back to where it's all in chaos. That's all for this special edition of Give Me a Break Tuesday going to Wednesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For all of us here at Give Me a Break in YouTube, my heart goes out to Hobbs Elementary and to the city of Glen, in the other city of Texas, which I can't pronounce, but I will pronounce it. Stay safe, cool, hydrated. Good night, everyone.